Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Muhammad Mustaqim, your lecturer for this course ECG 263 Soil Engineering Laboratory. So in this video, I will explain to you to replace our first week meeting. Here I would like to outline what I will explain briefly about this content, this course, and so that you can have some ideas, the overview about this subject. So first, I will explain the overview about this subject. What is the subject it will tell you about, and what the thing that you will learn from this subject. And then I will explain to you about the content covered in this subject. Basically, what kind of laboratory activities that you will conduct. Then I will explain about the assessment of the subject, about the test, the practical test that will be covered, the marks, the assessment. The next one will be the safety in the laboratory. I will explain to you about what is the safety measure that you need to be well considered during, before and after in the laboratory session. The next one will be the diagnosis test, and last but not least is about your assignment of this week. Now we look at on the first content. Basically, the overview about this subject. This subject is about the demonstration by means of investigation methods to determine some soil engineering properties. Basically, we conduct the laboratory testing must comply in accordance with standards that we refer. Mostly we refer to the British standard or the STM, American Standard Testing Method. In this subject also, we show appropriate technique to soil engineering problem with an awareness of the limitation. So from here, you can perform a teamwork activities in tasks related on this kind of soil engineering practice. So what I can say about this subject is it allow you to experience and carrying out standard soil laboratory tests, including physical properties and classification of soil, permeability, compressibility, and soil shear strength. So for the content of this laboratory subject, I can outline with four categories. The first category is physical properties and classification of soil. So in this subtopic, you may introduce with the procedures and the laboratory activities to determine the moisture content and particle density of soil, attribute limit tests, which inclusive of plastic limit and liquid limit, particle size distribution, fine grained soil or wet sieving by means of hydrometer test. For the second part, you will introduce with the determination of coefficient of soil permeability. So in soil permeability, we have two types of tests, which is constant heat and folly heat test. So we will conduct both of these tests, but we must identify first which type or categorize of soil that we need to conduct the procedure. The next subtopic in this laboratory activities is about the compressibility of soil. So in this subtopic, you will introduce with the Standard Proctor method to determine the soil compressibility index. And then you also be introduced on site measurement of field density by means of cell replacement method. And by the demonstration, I will show you how we can conduct and interpret the result from one-dimensional consolidation or odometer test. So from this test, I will show you how we can calculate the settlement due to the consolidation of the structure or any geotechnical structure. And the last topic, we can conduct how to determine the shear strength of soil. In this last subtopic, I will supervise you to conduct the direct shear test, or called as shear box test. So from this test, we mostly conduct the test on the soil which type of loose or dense sand. And further than that, I will continue will show you how we conduct the tri-axis test to determine other soil shear strength parameters, which is C and V. Okay. So in the tri-axis test, we will classify into two types. This is the consolidated undrained or unconsolidated, drained or undrained. So all these four topics that I mentioned will be covered within 14 weeks, including of two numbers of practical tests. Alright, now we proceed with the cost assessment. So basically, this subject, there is no final exam subject. So we have two numbers of practical tests which carry 25% each. And another 10% will be observed, will be evaluated based on the laboratory activities observation, which cover 10%. And remaining 40% will cover by the laboratory activities, which also inclusive of laboratory report. Now we look at on safety in laboratories. So safety is the most important thing when you enter the laboratories area. So there are some cautions that I would like to highlight here. First, in case of emergency such fire, so you must recognize first your priority of your evacuation route. So basically in laboratory we have front door and the back door as the evacuation route. Then in the laboratory session you must wear the proper attire, especially on your safety boots and jacket. So these two things is the compulsory to have in your bodies in along of the laboratory session. And last but not least, what I would like to remind you, along the laboratory session, you must handle the equipment with care to avoid any injuries. Alright, now we proceed to the next one about the diagnostic tests. So for this week, so since I'm not available in this campus, I will ask the help from the assistant engineer to distribute the diagnostic test. So ask the assistant engineer and he will give you the diagnostic test. So please answer the question within the time of a period and return back to him. So I will assess your initial ability of this subject knowledge. And the last, before I leave you, about the assignment. So for this first week, I assign you to form a group. So a group member, the numbers of group members should not less than 3% and not more than 5% per group. So you can mix regardless gender of the group members. And lastly, I hope you enroll the island of this subject ECG 263 in Ireland, so that you can download all the reference that been provided, inclusive of the lesson plan and laboratory manual. So I think that's all for today, and see you on next week. Assalamu alaikum.